Manatees are large, fully aquatic, mostly herbivorous marine animals, sometimes known as sea cows. They measure up to 13 feet long, weigh as much as 1,300 pounds, and have paddle-like flippers. Manatees inhabit the shallow, marshy coastal areas and rivers of the Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico. This makes their breeding and living space in United States coastal lines and rivers. For example, the West Indian manatee migrates into Florida rivers such as the Crystal, the Homosassa, and the Chassahowitzka rivers. However, these are very big powerboating rivers. Many believe that the recent increase in powerboats is decreasing the manatee population. Therefore, the two variables I am studying in this project are the number of powerboat registrations and the number of dead manatees. The independent variable in this study is the number of powerboat registrations, and the dependent variable is the number of dead manatees. I chose these variables to answer the question, does the number of powerboat registrations affect the number of dead manatees? I believe this topic is important because if an unnecessary human activity is directly causing the death of a harmless animal, then it surely should be prevented. My hypothesis is that there is a strong correlation between the number of powerboat registrations and the number of dead manatees. Me and my partner collected 10 data points from a portfolio we found online. The portfolio was done by Mario Triola at Colorado State. On the screen now is the citation of my resource. From these 10 points, we formed a data table, Figure 1, a scatter plot, Figure 2, and a scatter plot with regression line, Figure 3. The next minute will be a showcase of the 3 different figures. My linear equation for this research was y equals 2.274x minus 112.709. I used technology to find this equation. My slope was 2.274. This slope represents the number of powerboat registrations per manatee death. My y-intercept for this research was negative 112.709. This shows that there were very few manatees killed before the boating registrations in 1990. There is no use for an x-intercept because this equation is not negative. My correlation coefficient was 0.921. This shows a strong positive correlation between the two variables. My question I asked earlier was, does the number of powerboat registrations affect the number of manatees killed in Florida? I found the answer to this question is yes. Sadly, the number of powerboat registrations is affecting the death of many manatees. Using my trend line, you can find the average number of manatees that died at any given amount of powerboat registrations. For example, in a year where there were 76 powerboat registrations, about 60 manatees were killed. Using my equation, one example of interpolation is 2.274 times 70 minus 112.709 equals 46 dead manatees. Using my equation for one example of extrapolation is 2.274 times 200 minus 112.709. This equals 342 dead manatees. This example of extrapolation is important because if we do have a year in Florida where there were 200 powerboat registrations, it could mean the death of 342 dead manatees. I believe the relationship between these two variables is a causation, because if there are more registered powerboats on our rivers, then there are more chances for these powerboats to kill the manatees. I believe people can use this data to better protect the endangered Florida manatee. Therefore, this data is very important.